I often hear adults in my life saying, oh, well, we need to be hopeful for the future. But I always say, how can we be hopeful if we aren't doing anything?
We have like less than 10 years to drastically change our ways to mitigate climate change. And as a youth entering the world, that's really important to me because I want to have a family and I want to give my kids the same or similar childhood that I had. But I can't do that if we're going to kill the climate and make it uninhabitable for us.
As our biosphere as a whole is starting to reduce its health, I think it's important for us to learn at a young age the importance of an ecosystem. Growing up in the garden kind of helps you to not only understand from a young age what an ecosystem looks like, but rather the importance of maintaining a healthy one. I used to play with the beetles, potato bugs and butterflies, all those critters and creatures in the garden. Helps you realize the importance of all living things on the land.
I just have a deep respect for nature and I feel like everything has a life and a voice and that deserves to be heard and respected. We were part of the ecosystem, we weren't controlling it years ago, hundreds of years ago. I'm from the Sutina Reserve, so my heritage plays a part in that as well. The trees can't speak for themselves, but I can, so I should.
The problems that we often face as human designers, the solutions can often be found in nature because it's evolved to thrive in that environment. If we just looked around at our beautiful earth, we'd be able to find more solutions to our problems. Solutions in nature are more cost-effective and more sustainable.
Giving back as much as I'm taking, that's what sustainable means to me.
Sustainability would relate to food systems because
agriculture and environment, they are interconnected. You know, if you have a really bad ecosystem around your farm, then your farm is probably not going to do very well. I think it's important to try and protect the ecosystems and the animals and everything that makes their home around those places.
Food has so many impacts and implications on society that we don't ever really think about.
Take the Amazon, for example. Farmers are burning the forest to create more farmland, to feed more people. So I feel like if we're more conscious about what we're eating and how much space it takes, that's why I stopped eating beef. Beef production takes up a lot of space and resources and emits the most emissions out of all meat.
One hamburger uses 660 gallons of water, which is equal to showering for 2 whole months. 90 million tons of fish are pulled from the oceans every year.
They're grabbing too much salmon from the ocean and not leaving enough for the wildlife that depend on it. A lot of produce is thrown out because it's ugly. If you're growing your food and it comes out ugly, you know it's still good because you grew it. But if you're buying it from the store, there's this idea that it's gross because it's ugly.
Food waste is the world's dumbest problem because I feel like we could fix it if we just looked a little bit deeper. When I learned about these things happening to other ecosystems that were quite similar to the ones in my garden, it made me upset. We're harming the environment in which our food is grown. We've become so used to a system where our food is created and manufactured somewhere else and it's pretty much ready for us to eat at the grocery store. And we've become so disconnected from the idea that we used to have to create or gather our own food. And I think it's just that, of course, disconnect, but I feel like it's very easy to be able to reconnect. When we come together as a community over something like gardening or creating food, I feel like that can have pretty profound and positive impacts. We all eat food, and this is essentially growing food.
When you hear about it, it's really easy to forget that. But when you actually do it yourself and you're mentally engaged, it's like a completely different thing. It's just like playing a sport. You can watch all you want, hear about it all you want, but you can't actually learn about it that much unless you actually do it. So I think it's really important for people to get out there and get their hands dirty. The urban farming in Edmonton, I thought that was such a cool experience to be a part of. You know, the sense of pride when you're actually eating your own food that you grew. Food does taste better in my personal opinion. When it just comes straight from the ground like that, of course it's gonna taste different, but you know how much work you put into it, and you're kind of proud of it too. Like, there's that sense of like, oh, I grew this. Before I had this experience, you know, I was not interested in agriculture at all, or any environmental things. I never thought about it. I just kind of like, you know, bought it from the supermarket and, you know, there it is. But after that experience, the 2 seasons I worked in that garden, it's definitely changed a lot. I mean, it's hard work, but like, it's fun. And the people there that you meet too, the connections that you make is also pretty special, I think. The amount of support that I had, me not knowing anything about agriculture, people were actually able, you know, patient enough to give the time and the resources to actually, you know, teach me how to more or less plant the seed, harvest the carrots. So you definitely need that support. You can't do it alone.
When you get food from someone who you know, who's put time and effort into creating something, when you eat it or consume it, you feel the human aspect and are reminded of the experience that you had with that person.
I would more likely buy from like my neighbor than I would from somebody a couple countries away.
You have a connection to it, right? It's a different thing than having it shipped somewhere else.
It takes less greenhouse gas emissions to travel shorter distances and not use a plane, so I try to buy from Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan. If you trust the person growing your food to make good food, no matter what it looks like, I feel like that would change a lot of people's opinions.
You're not just picking up this plastic packaged fruit in the supermarket. There is something behind that. People put in work for that. It doesn't come out of nowhere. If you know that, you don't want to just throw it away.
As soon as we add a sense of humanity or humanness into consuming food or products that we buy, we become more grateful of the people and resources that went into it.
Different people talk about different things, and so I just pick up little anecdotes from everybody.
Mr. Rob is doing something right. He is very supportive of everyone's projects. I mean, as the students, we don't have that many connections with experts. That's really special that he has those connections and he's willing to share them with us too. He has a very special class. I've never seen anything like that before.
Everybody in our class community has that common sense of I care, I want to do something about this. Talking about the food system or talking about climate action, you often feel like you're alone in caring about these issues, but it's nice to see other people who are also passionate about these issues and taking action on them.
My stepmom's a parabiologist, so I learn about these things that are just dinner table conversations. Their passion usually sparks a passion in me. It creates like a domino effect of passion and information.
I feel like when you have experience working on a project or even trying to face and address these issues, you have a totally different view on them, because all of a sudden your view isn't based on maybe something you read online or heard from a friend. It's real world and you get to see these impacts firsthand.
I want to support my community because I feel like my community supports me. I'm working on the mural for the community garden. It's this big goddess woman tree with the 4 seasons around her. I'm really excited for it. The goal of this art piece isn't to like educate people, it's more to bring people together because it's for the community garden.
Right now there are a system of raised beds. I think there's 20 or so raised beds that people have, and they just individually come and they sign up for it and grow their own food. And we're planning on making a community system in ground. Same idea as the raised beds, it's just more people get the opportunity to come and grow their own food and have the opportunity to get together. Harvest really brings people together and get to learn a lot about where your food comes from.
Right now, I'm helping with the Grow Alberta project, where we deliver seed kits to anybody who wants one, because I think it's important for everybody to learn where their food comes from and to get their hands in the garden.
People can ask me to talk about sustainability for hours, and I could.
If more people thought about how their actions were going to impact long term and even the way that we get our food, a sustainable future could be met.
Food is not an infinite resource. It is finite. I mean, it's a special thing that we shouldn't take for granted.
The first action we need to take is to start having a fair conversation where everybody's voice and opinions are heard. Youth voices matter when it comes to sustainability because
we're the ones who are inheriting the world. Why would you build something without consulting the people who are going to be living in it? Climate change is one of the biggest challenges that we've ever faced as a species. The youth know that solving it is paramount to their future and the future of the world that we live in.
If you give youth the chance to do something, I think they're really capable of doing a lot of amazing things.
Hear what we have to say. Maybe not agree with us, although agreeing would be great, but at least just listen with an open mind. I think that's the most anybody can do.
As soon as we are acting and doing everything we can, there is hope.